Hello. It's Dr. Jimmy Rustles. Back with another one on the V2V podcast with Shorts and Aurelius. I am so grateful to the boys for having me on the show. Let's get to it. #Wooden Indian. Do you believe in coincidences? Or do you believe there's some larger, possibly nefarious mechanism at work making weird things happen the way they do? Whether you believe in fate or in random occurrences, here are 16 of the strangest coincidences to have happened throughout recent history. 1. He wasn't kidding. On June 20, 1940, Soviet archaeologists uncovered the tomb of Tamerlane, a descendant of Genghis Khan. A warning inscription read, "Whoever opens my tomb will unleash an invader more terrible than I." They opened it anyway. Germany invaded the Soviet Union 2 days later. 2. Musical neighbors. If not for the 200-year difference, Jimi Hendrix and George Handel would have been neighbors. They lived at 23 and 25 Brook Street, respectively, in London. 3. We wonder what their insurance was like. There were only 2 cars in the state of Ohio in 1895. They ran into each other. Then there were no cars. 4. Maybe there's something in the water. Stalin, Hitler, and Franz Joseph, who are collectively responsible for about 80 million deaths, all lived in Vienna at the same time. 6. The Hoover Dam's first and last victims. The first worker to die during the dam's construction was J.G. Tierney on December 20, 1922. The last person to die there was J.G. Tierney's son, who died on December 20, 1935. 7. History repeats itself. Hitler was born 129 years after Napoleon. He also came to power 129 years after Napoleon, invaded Russia 129 years after Napoleon, and was defeated 129 years after Napoleon. 9. Don't bring her on a cruise. Violet Jessup was like a walking bad omen. She was on the HMS Olympic when it struck the HMS Hawke. She was on the HMHS Britannic when it hit a mine, and of course she was on the RMS Titanic, too. Jessup was actually a stewardess and nurse, so being on ships was her job. She'd be later known as Miss Unsinkable. All 3 doomed ships were also sister ships. 10. We assume they tip either time. In 1975, a man was killed when he was struck by a taxi in Bermuda. An unlucky passenger had to witness it. A year later, the same taxi driver was driving the same passenger when the taxi struck and killed the original victim's brother. 12. You guys really need to keep the baby away from the window. Someone on this street obviously had it in for this baby, because during the 1930s, a man named Joseph Figlock was surprised by a falling baby landing on his shoulders. The same day the next year, the same baby fell on him again at the same spot. Neither Figlock nor the baby were harmed, but we hope someone got this family a screen. 13. Mark Twain's comet framed life. Halley's Comet passes Earth about once every 76 years, making it actually not that unlikely that someone's life could be measured by it. One such person is Mark Twain, who was born during its 1835 pass, and died the day of its appearance in 1910. He even predicted it in 1909. 15. The case for taking your own advice. South African astronomer Danny du Toit was giving a lecture at the age of 49 about how death could come at any time. On finishing, he popped a mint into his mouth with a little too much vigor, and choked to death. 16. The patient bullet. When his sister committed suicide after a failed relationship, one man vowed revenge against Henry Ziegland, the man who'd broken her heart. He shot at Ziegland but missed, and the bullet lodged in a nearby tree. Years later, Henry was clearing that very land and used dynamite to remove the tree. The bullet was dislodged with considerable force, struck Ziegland, and killed him.